This is an interesting one. Karen Bass, new mayor of LA. She comes in and she does the same damn thing that a sheriff did in 2021, and he got lambasted for it. He basically was listening to business owners in Venice Beach, and he said, all right, city leadership, if you guys don't get off your ass and clear this encampment, I'm coming in with my cowboys, his deputies, and we're going to clear this thing out. We're going to clear it out. We're going to make this happen. And that was enough to get the ball started, and it just shamed the current mayor into doing something, right? Now we've got Karen Bass, new mayor, and she's clearing out 100 people from Venice Beach. And it's, this is the greatest thing ever. This is what I campaigned on. This is my platform. I'm doing what I said I would do. You know, moving out 100 people from a homeless encampment, this isn't a victory. That's a start. And here's the deal. You're playing whack-a-mole. And I see it over in Seattle every day. Every day I'm over there, and I'm probably over there, I don't know. When I'm over there a lot, it's like 3 or 4 days a week. When I'm not, I'm there maybe, a handful of times a month, something like that. But right now I've been over there a bunch because I've been working on boat stuff and paddle boarding, and it's the middle of winter, and that's when you want to do a lot of paddle boarding because there's nobody else out. It's really cold. So, everybody else is up skiing. Those guys don't know what they're missing out on. But no, I'm just trying to get really good at paddle boarding because, it's something I want to work on. And, more time in, it's better. I do wear a wetsuit, but it's still cold. Water is 46 degrees. Don't fall in. Don't recommend it. It's cold. It's very cold. So Karen Bass, she comes in and she's just all photo op, smiling, 100 people. This is optics, right? This is sheer optics for something that was just derided a year and a half ago, 2021, when the sheriff said, I'm coming in, I'm cleaning house because you guys got to do something here, because the encampment issue after the pandemic had just gotten wildly out of control. You sweep out 100 people, it's that whack-a-mole game. Like I was saying, I see it. You're just moving people from here. They're going to go over here. They're going to still continue doing their drugs. They're going to do their crazy stuff. The whole ecosystem, it just shifts around a little bit. That's all you've got going on, right? So Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass is basking in the success of removing 100 people off of city streets and into temporary shelters in less than 30 days on the job. No one seems concerned with how she is having so much success in a short amount of time. Well, how long was this sweep set up? I mean, how long ago was this sweep set up? She's literally just said, this is all me. I did all this. This is what we're doing. I mean, it's just some real nonsense. So it's basically a big photo op for her, right? It's an enormous photo op. Bass campaigned on a platform of tackling the homeless crisis, pledging to get 17,000 homeless people off of the street in her first year in office, and estimated it would take 4 years to get a firm grasp on it. 17,000 off the street in her first year. All right. That would be not only a world record, that would be a record for the universe. And I am assuming there is life beyond planet Earth. That's why I'm making that statement. There is also a planet out there who's got a homeless issue. This would be more than that planet's ever done as well. I'm totally making this up, right? Although I do believe there is life beyond planet Earth, because the universe is so big. There's so many, billions and trillions of planets and other systems out there, star systems and whatnot. To believe that we're the only ones here, I think is pretty short-sighted. But she's saying, we're just gonna put a lot of people into housing. She went a step further by declaring a state of emergency, which lasts 6 months, with the county and other local cities following her lead that the homeless crisis was not just an emergency, but a full-blown crisis. Okay, we've been in a full-blown emergency crisis here in King County. We've had, crisis mode for homelessness for like 7 years. And our problem just keeps getting worse because they're not going to the heart of the matter on so much of what's going on. You're not dealing with the people on crazy amounts of drugs. And LA, look at Skid Row. Look at Skid Row. Look at the stories coming out of Skid Row. I mean, it is not the Wild West. It is Mad Max type, just, Mohawk with your whatever boyfriend on the back of your motorcycle, and you're just going to go out and do some, whatever, marauding in the open desert in the outback of Australia. That's Mad Max stuff. And that's literally what you've got going on in a community like Skid Row. Venice Beach, I've talked about this. That's what we're talking about here, talking about taking 100 people off of Venice Beach. It was really interesting. I was watching Casey Neistat, and you probably don't care who that is, but he's a pretty famous and probably one of the best YouTubers out there. He did a thing where he put out one video a day for an entire year. And you're talking 10-minute complete YouTube video. That might not sound like a lot because I pump a couple of those out at, half an hour a pop each day. But he's putting out like all of this really crazy imagery and all these super quick little, I sit here and talk into a camera, multiple cameras, but he would do things like he'd do a time lapse, he'd do hyperlapse, he'd do zoom in, all this crazy editing, and just these fantastic videos. He moved from New York City to basically Venice Beach in California. And on one of his first videos, he had some kind of instrument in his hand because he was leaving to go on a road trip really early in the morning. Like he was driving his Tesla, and he was kind of jokingly talking about, I think he had a screwdriver or something. And you would, unless you read these news stories all day long, it wouldn't make any sense to you. And he's like, you never know who you're going to encounter out here. And he was talking about the homeless population that's psychotic in Venice Beach. Then he literally carries, some kind of implement with him. He was kind of half joking, but then you could also kind of tell, not half joking. He's a realist. He just came from New York City. He knows what it's like to defend yourself getting from point A to point B. And so Venice Beach, beautiful area. Beautiful area. So they're going to, obviously start with that because you've got the high rollers in that area. You've got multi-million-dollar homes, and then you've got massive homeless community. And who's covered this a ton has been German in Venice. I'll have to check in on German in Venice. That guy does, he gets the footage, and he just kind of walks around, and here it is. This is what we're doing. We know that the community of Venice has suffered for a long time, Bass said. The people on the streets have been suffering, and the people who have to live or work near the encampments have been suffering. So I'm happy to say that we're able to move a number of people into housing, and this work is going to continue, said every single politician with the homeless problem in their community. We're going to keep working on it. All right. What's that going to look like? Because you might have moved a handful inside, but they're not going to make it inside. Eventually they're going to go back outside. And then you're going to have thousands who need, who need either psychological help or they need drug addiction help or a combination. And they're just living out there. So how are you going to handle that? How are you going to handle 17,000? That'll be interesting to watch, right? It's kind of like, all right, I'll watch this train wreck. I'll watch how this goes. So mayor of LA off to a start. Let's give her that, off to a start. But this isn't anything in particular. The fact that she's getting press for this is just kind of wild, right? So she went to Venice, where former Sheriff Alex Villanueva already showed it was possible to transition people safely from the streets and into shelter. The difference is he was villainized for stepping out of bounds, while Bass is being cheered as a hero. That drives me nuts. You got law enforcement saying, hey, we're going to enforce the laws. Oh, you're horrible and terrible. No thin blue line for you. And then you've got a mayor who just got elected saying crazy stuff. Oh, we're going to do this many people off the streets. Just no idea. I mean, just no clue, right? So here's what Villanueva said. They say imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, said Villanueva. Too bad my call to the Board of Supervisors and the governor for an emergency declaration fell on deaf ears in 2021. So he's just basically calling out exactly what happened. We podcasted on that. We talked about that. We talked about, hey, if it takes being shamed into getting your job done, so be it. But There aren't enough resources out there for all this stuff. There aren't enough resources. There's not enough beds for 17,000 people, period, point blank. You don't have the infrastructure to handle all the people with all of their various needs, because these people are not your average folks just down on their luck, waiting for their next break, waiting for a couple of paychecks to come in, then they'll get back on their feet and they'll get housing or they'll get a hotel again. These aren't those folks. And that's where there's this massive disconnect that I think nobody is really recognizing. Well, some people are recognizing. Reasonable people are recognizing that, and have always recognized that. But until you start working on some of these more deeply rooted problems, it's not just the roof over your head, is it? That's kind of like, all right, whatever. If you want to get sober, you can figure it out. And people that are really mentally unstable, letting them live outside in a drug-filled environment is not compassion. It's just not. So we're back to, she had immediate success, talking about Mayor Bass. Within 10 short days, Bass managed to get 100 people off the streets and out of tents. Well, that was just a sweep that was planned. They had this in the works for a while. They went out and did it. Now you've got the optics. So what would be really impressive is if she was able to keep Venice Beach clear for like 3 years. Yeah. Don't have the resource to do that, because once they've got Venice Beach cleaned, they're going to go elsewhere. And, when they do, those people are going right back to Venice Beach. The efforts were part of Bass's new initiative called Inside Safe, and a collective effort with partners from the nonprofit St. Joseph Center and newly elected city council member Tracy Park. Villanueva also partnered with St. Joseph Center and other partners, which resulted in more than 300 tents being removed from the boardwalk in 2021. Yeah, he cleaned house. And he was literally vilified for that. People knew his name. It's like, oh, he's that horrible, horrible sheriff who's being mean to the poor people. It's like, no, he's cleaning up Venice Beach. He's cleaning up Muscle Beach. He's, making it so that people who want to go to these iconic California areas can actually enjoy them with their families, instead of just having the crazy news stories. And there were crazy news stories. I remember talking about the Ben and Jerry's ice cream shop that was on Venice Beach and how they closed up. I mean, if you're closing up an ice cream shop on Venice Beach, you got some major, major issues, right? I mean, that's telling of what was going on. That was during the pandemic, and you didn't have enough people walking around because everybody was supposed to be hunkered down inside their house, not talking to anybody. And, we're going down those roads, wondering why the Rona isn't spreading wildfire throughout the homeless encampments. Kind of like, that's weird. It's really strange. What's going on here? How does this happen? Yeah, right? That tent action, all that fresh air. So days before Bass's press conference, local news reporters were on the encampment cleanup trail alongside Bass and Park, where they were interviewing those who accepted assistance, some of which went on camera explaining their drug illness or their drug use. All right, here's the next section I want to get into. According to the LA Centers for Alcohol and Drug Abuse, 27% of the homeless reported substance abuse and 25% had serious mental illness. Those numbers are wildly, wildly underreported. There is no way that those numbers are true. The homeless encampments that I go by, I mean, you can literally just eyeball what's going on. Hypodermic needles on the sidewalk out in front of these encampments, that's kind of your first clue. There's a whole bunch of garbage. They're not being kept up. They're going down this road, right? They have gone down this road. There's no way 27% of the homeless reported substance abuse and 25% had serious mental illness. The 25% who reported mental illness, okay, all right. Because we don't really know what that number is by excluding the drug use, right? So you take people off the drugs, can you then identify, what mental illnesses they have? Because until you get there, so many of these drugs are causing literally psychosis in people. Some of the crazy new meth that's out there, every time I turn around, there's some kind of new crazy drug that's going on. And, one of the stories that I'm going to cover, I'm not covering it in this 4-pack of stories today, but it's, I think we've got some legislation that they're trying to hit on xylazine, which is the animal tranquilizer for large animals that's just rampaged through Philadelphia, Kensington Avenue. And it's causing everybody to like do that wild nod off when, they're almost, their heads down at their ankles is bottom line. That's not a nod off. That is I don't know what that is, but those people, they're on some crazy, crazy stuff. So back to the article. Connecting them with services also incorporates the County of Los Angeles, which comes at a cost for all Angelenos. You got taxpayer money going into this. Till you get to the root cause of some of this stuff, it's not going away. You're just literally playing whack-a-mole. You're moving 100 people out. They're going to come back. They're going to go to another community. They come right back to City of Venice, camp out there. The minute the coast is clear, this is just what's happening. So to take a victory lap after 100 people on Venice Beach after it's been cleared out, how many times? Yeah, not so much. Okay, I think that is it for this one. But yeah, it's so interesting to see, how perspective changes. Oh, we've got somebody, an elected official that we brought in, and not the dangerous, evil Sheriff Villanueva, right? I mean, because clearly he's just a mean old bastard for moving all those homeless people out. But now we've got a mayor who the people voted in because they liked what she said. She's moved 100 people out, and it's, let's take a bow. Things are great. It's wild how that goes, right? It's wild how that goes. To me, it's like, let the sheriff just keep going. Let him just keep cleaning clock. But now we're not going to do that because, we've got to all partner together. We've got to work together on some of this stuff. And we need to all just have compassion for one another. And so tired of that, right?